David Miller, a 48-year-old software engineer, has always lived a methodical and predictable life in Seattle, Washington. Married to Lisa, an elementary school teacher, and father of 2 teenagers, Emily and Jack, David devoted himself to work and family with the same intensity. A quiet routine, with occasional trips to Mount Rainier during weekends to escape the hustle and bustle of the city and connect with nature. Everything changes on a Tuesday afternoon at the end of October, when David receives a call from Dr. Harrison after a series of routine examinations that he had postponed for months. Sitting in his home office, surrounded by programming books and family photos, he answers the phone with a slight anxiety. "Mr. Miller, I have your test results here." Dr. Harrison's voice was severe, deliberate. "Unfortunately, the news is not good. You have a rare type of pancreatic cancer, and you're at an advanced stage." The silence that follows is palpable. David feels a void form in his stomach, a mixture of unbelief and fear. "We are talking about months, maybe a year, with treatment," continues the doctor, his voice now a softer tone, trying to offer some solace. "I understood. Thank you." Dr. David's answer is automatic, his mind still trying to keep up with the words that would change his life forever. He hangs up the phone and sits still for long minutes. Life, with its trivialities and daily worries, suddenly seems fragile, a thin thread about to break. When Lisa comes home with the children, he is in the kitchen, looking at nothing, the news not yet fully assimilated. Lisa immediately realizes something is wrong. Her questioning gaze causes David to take a deep breath before speaking. He narrates everything slowly, choosing every word, as tears begin to form in Lisa's eyes. Emily and Jack listen, not fully understanding the gravity of the situation, but feeling the weight of their parents' emotions. "Dad, you're gonna be okay, right?" Jack asks, his voice trembles. "I'll do my best, champ," replies David, forcing a smile as he hugs his son. The wife and daughter join the hug, forming a small refuge of love and support. In the following days, David goes through an emotional roller coaster, alternating between moments of deep despair and a strange apathy. The initial shock gives way to a grim determination. He begins to think of everything he still wanted to do, all the places he wanted to see. The idea of a wish list, something you've always considered cliché, suddenly becomes an anchor, a plan to seize the time you have left. On a cold November night, David sits back in his office, but this time to write his wish list. He thinks about visiting the Grand Canyon, watching the sunset in Key West, and finally making that trip to Europe with Lisa that they always postponed. Each item added to the list is a challenge to its own mortality, a promise to fight for life in every day that remains. Lisa supports David's decision to live his final months intensely, though each plan is a reminder of the limited time they have together. "Let's do it together," she says, holding her hand tight, her eyes full of tears but also a fierce determination. "Every moment counts, doesn't it?" "Yes, every moment," he replies, the voice firm for the first time since the news. Together, they begin to plan the first trips, determined to make each day a celebration of the life that remains. In the days that follow, David and Lisa dive into travel guides and adventure blogs, meticulously choosing the destinations they will visit. Each choice is a balance between desire and reality, between the urgency of time and the will to make each experience worthwhile. The children, although still somewhat oblivious to the seriousness of the situation, are included in the plans, bringing their own ideas and youthful enthusiasm to the adventure that the family will face together. David also begins to reevaluate his personal relationships. He decides to reconnect with old friends, those who, because of the routine and distance, ended up moving away. Every phone call, every encounter, is now loaded with a deeper meaning. He wants to repair broken bridges, leave the hurt behind and focus on the good memories they shared. At one of these reunions, he visits an old college friend in San Francisco. They spend the day walking the Golden Gate Bridge, reminiscing about the old days and sharing laughter. The friend, realizing the serenity with which David faces his destiny, feels inspired and deeply moved. "Man, you're dealing with all this in a way that I don't know if I could," he says, looking at the vastness of the ocean ahead. "I also did not know that I could." Until I had no choice, David replies, his gaze lost on the horizon. But now every day seems like a gift, and I want to unwrap each one as if it were the last. Upon returning home after the trip, David feels revitalized despite the physical fatigue. Lisa's support is unconditional, and she makes sure to be by her side at every step, at every new discovery. Plans for upcoming trips are already underway, with Europe set for the following spring. Paris, Rome, Barcelona, cities that promise new adventures and new stories to tell. But it is in the midst of these preparations that David begins to notice changes in his body. Initially, he attributes it to the fatigue of travel, but soon realizes that something else is happening. Reluctantly, he scheduled another meeting with Dr. Harrison to check on his condition. After reuniting with his doctor and confirming that his time is even more limited than expected, David sets out with even more fervor to the realization of his wish list. With Lisa by her side, every destination, every experience, becomes a vibrant page in the last chapter of her life. The first trip is to the Grand Canyon. David had always marveled at the photos of the vast gorge, its vibrant colors at sunset. Now he is there, standing on the edge, looking at the immense valley before him. The wind blows hard, but the sun warms your skin, a perfect metaphor for the warmth of life against the adversities of destiny. It's more amazing than I imagined, he tells Lisa, his voice full of admiration and an almost forgetfulness of his condition. Lisa holds her hand, sharing the moment, feeling the majesty of the place penetrate their souls. They spend hours walking the tracks, observing the different hues of red and orange that change as the day progresses. At night, they camp under a starry sky, the silence only broken by the sound of their low voices. I've never felt so small, and yet so part of something great, David confesses as he looks at the stars. Back in Seattle, they barely have time to unpack before leaving for Key West. David wanted to see the most spectacular sunset in America, and Key West promises just that. They sit on the beach, their feet buried in the sand, while the sun sets on the horizon. Each shade of orange, pink, and purple seems to paint not only the sky, but also its hopes and memories. Every sunset is a promise that the end can be beautiful, David whispers, the words almost carried by the wind. Upon returning, the trip to Europe becomes a reality. Paris welcomes them with its imposing architecture and charming cafes. They stroll along the Seine, visit the Louvre, and David, on an impulse, buys a canvas and paints to paint on the riverbank, trying to capture the essence of the city light in colors and shapes. Lisa watches, delighted with David's new artistic facet, emerging so late in his life. In Rome, they get lost in the ancient streets, absorbing history and culture. David insists on learning a few phrases in Italian, wanting to interact more authentically with the locals. They take a cooking class together, laughing as they try to make the perfect pizza, the sauce spreading more on them than on the pasta. Barcelona is vibrant and full of life. They explore the Sagrada Familia, the works of Gaudi scattered throughout the city, and dance in a small square to the sound of a flamenco guitarist. David feels the music pulse through him, a living reminder that there is still rhythm in his life, despite everything. Every destination is a celebration, every moment a precious gem. In between trips, David also seeks to fulfill simpler desires, learning to play guitar, writing letters to each of his loved ones, explaining what they mean to him, and planting a tree in his home's backyard, a symbol of growth and continuity. Lisa documents everything, taking pictures, recording videos, creating an album of memories that will one day be a treasure for her and her children. The images capture not only the places and experiences, but the light in David's eyes, the determination in his posture, the joy he finds in each new day. This part of the journey is intense and emotional, a series of farewells for each experience, but also a celebration of life that David strives to live fully. Each experience adds a layer of meaning and contentment to your existence, redefining what it means to enjoy each moment. As time passes, David's physical fatigue increases, but his spirit remains resilient. He begins to perceive a subtle change in his perspective. Where once there was an overwhelming fear of death, There is now a quiet acceptance and gratitude for the opportunities life has given him. In a symbolic act of acceptance, David and Lisa renew their wedding vows in a small ceremony on Malibu Beach, surrounded by friends and family. It is a moment of pure celebration, reaffirming love and commitment to each other before the infinite horizon. After the ceremony, as the waves gently break in the sand, David shares his thoughts with Lisa, each word charged with emotion and depth. Looking at the ocean makes me think about what really matters in life. It's not the days we count, Lisa, it's the moments. Lisa, with tears of joy and sadness mixed, responds with a tender smile. And we created so many wonderful moments together. David, I wouldn't change anything, not even the hard parts. With each new dawn, David feels a mixture of gratitude and melancholy. He knows that every day can be the last, so he makes sure to leave words of love and encouragement to his family by recording small video messages for them to watch in the future. He wants his words to be a beacon of guidance and comfort, even when he cannot be physically present. Among the most significant activities, David makes a point of dedicating time to lonely reflections, often accompanied only by a notebook and a pen, writing thoughts, poems, and reflections on his journey. He discovers a passion for conveying his experiences in words, something he had never explored before. These texts, full of insights and beauty, are meant to be read by your children when they are older, a spiritual and emotional heritage. Every journey, every shared laughter, every tear shed together strengthens the bonds between David and his family. The wish list, initially a way to face your mortality, turns into a powerful affirmation of life and everything it offers. By embracing his journey with courage and an open heart, David teaches everyone around him about the beauty of truly living every moment, about the importance of creating memories that transcend time and life itself. As David's wish list begins to shorten, the reality of his condition becomes more palpable. Although he has traveled the world and lived experiences that many only dream of, the weight of his illness begins to manifest itself more strongly. Each activity, however exciting, leaves a trail of fatigue and deep reflection on its purpose and legacy. The last trip on the list is a spiritual journey to Japan, a land that has always fascinated David for its rich culture and Zen traditions. He and Lisa visit ancient temples, participate in tea ceremonies, and meditate in serene gardens. In Kyoto, during a quiet walk under the blossoming cherry trees, David finds a moment of deep clarity. As he watches the delicate petals gently fall around them, he shares a thought with Lisa. See how each petal floats down, so light and effortless. It's like they know exactly where they're going, accepting their cycle with grace. Lisa, holding her hand, responds with understanding. It's a beautiful way of looking at life. Maybe there's a lesson there for us too. In this environment of peace and acceptance, David feels an inner change. The anxiety and fear that initially accompanied her diagnosis give rise to a serene acceptance of life and everything it brings, including its end. This transformation is not only a resignation, but a warm embrace of the complexities of life, the beauty of goodbyes, and the importance of leaving a legacy of love and hope. Back in the United States, David decides it's time to tackle one of the most personal and challenging items on his list: reconciling with his brother, whom he hasn't spoken to in years due to an old disagreement. The meeting is tense at first, but the urgency of David's condition breaks down the barriers of pride and resentment. Sitting in a park, watching the sunset, the two brothers finally open their hearts, sharing regrets and memories. David talks about his journey, about the importance of each moment and each relationship. He extends a hand, both literally and figuratively, in a gesture of reconciliation. I do not want the time we have left to be lost in past silences and sorrows, says David, the voice choked by emotion. His brother, with tears in his eyes, shakes his hand and answers, "Me neither, David. Neither do I. Let's start over while we still can." This reunion is one of the most transformative moments for David. He realizes that while some desires bring passing joy, reconciliations and emotional healings leave a lasting imprint not only on his life, but also on the lives of others. In the following months, David continues to live with a renewed intensity, but now focused more on quality moments with his family and friends, rather than looking for new adventures. He devotes time to writing detailed letters to every important person in his life, expressing his love, his gratitude, and his desires to them after his departure. He also begins to compile his reflections and lessons learned in a book, hoping to inspire others to live their lives to the fullest regardless of the circumstances. As he approaches what he believes to be his last days, David no longer feels the same fear of death. Instead, there is a deep peace, an understanding that he truly lived every given moment, transforming every day into an opportunity to grow, love, and leave a legacy of hope and beauty. The months of parting that David had meticulously planned begin to pass, each one faster than the last. He prepares for the end, surrounded by a network of friends and family who, touched by his journey, now see him not only as a man facing his end, but as a beacon of resilience and love. The Miller's home, always a home full of laughter and conversation, becomes yet another sanctuary of shared memories and moments. On a quiet autumn morning, while David is in the garden that he and Lisa have taken care of together, watching the tree they have planted and which now begins to show signs of robust growth, the phone rings. This is Dr. Harrison. The doctor's voice, this time, does not bring grim predictions, but an unexpected news. David's latest examinations show a significant remission of the disease. The unimaginable has happened. The cancer, so aggressively present in your life in recent months, is now receding. It's quite rare, but sometimes it happens. The cancer has gone into complete remission. We don't know how long this can last, but for now, you're off the hook, David. The shock of the news hits David like a wave. For a moment, he feels lost in a sea of emotions: joy, confusion, relief. Lisa, hearing him repeat the doctor's words, runs to hug him, tears of happiness mingling with the shock in his eyes. The whole family gathers, involving David in a collective embrace that speaks of shared struggles and unconditional love. In the following weeks, David reflects on his journey. Death, which he had accepted and prepared to greet as an old friend, was now only a postponed visitor. With this new gift of life, he wonders how to continue the journey that began with an end in mind. The wish list, once a means of marking time, now becomes a symbol of their struggle and triumph. He decides to devote more time to writing, turning his personal blog about the experience with the disease into an inspiring memoir. Stories of his struggle, his travels, reconciliations, and inner transformations begin to fill the pages, destined to offer hope and guidance to others facing similar adversities. David also becomes more active in cancer support organizations, sharing his story and helping to raise funds for research and treatment. His story, a testimony to the power of the human spirit in the face of adversity, resonates with many, bringing light to dark places. At a charity event, he speaks before a crowd, his family next door, and every word resonates with the depth of someone who looked death in the eye and found beauty in life. Every day is a gift, not because we know it can be the last, but because we choose to make it something meaningful, no matter how many days we have left. David ends his speech by looking at Lisa, who smiles with tears in her eyes, and at her proud and emotional children. Life had given them a second chance, a rare opportunity to continue writing a story that began with a goodbye. This new chapter, though unexpected, does not diminish the lessons learned in the shadow of imminent death. On the contrary, it enriches every breath, every laugh, every hug. David Miller, the man who prepared to die, now learns to live again, with a depth and gratitude that only those who faced the end truly know. If you like this exciting story, help us by leaving your like and subscribing to our channel. Until the next story.